Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. Today is Monday, July 19th, 2021, and today we're going to be looking at the 2020 presidential election in hindsight and be taking a look at a big question that a lot of people have been asking, and this is a video that has been highly recommended, and this is, what would have happened to the 2020 election? How would have it turned out if COVID-19 was not a factor in this election? So, but this is pretty much a video of, kind of looking back at different factors and the results and kind of speculation of what could have happened. Again, none of this is concrete again because we don't really know because that's not the scenario that played out. However, I think this is going to be a very interesting scenario to really, explore. But before we do begin, I want to remind you guys to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. And also, I want to remind you guys that channel memberships are now open if you want to become a channel member. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to our gold channel member, David Maxwell. We couldn't do it without you. And yeah, so now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's get started with the video. So on your screen, you're going to be seeing the 2020 presidential election map results. We see how states, divide up into the safe, likely, lean, and tilt margins throughout the country. And what are some of the things that we can see? The Midwest, close up, especially up northern Midwest, industrial Midwest, very close races. We see pretty much less than a point in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. A little bit more flexible for the Democrats in Michigan. Down in the Sun Belt, very close races down in Arizona, less than 1%. Georgia, another less than 1% race. North Carolina, another one less than 1% race. We see how the Midwest and the Sun Belt have, pretty significant factors in choosing the election. You simply could take a look at this and say, well, Trump, let's say he wins in the Midwest, he wins the race. Or you could have said, well, Trump wins down south and maybe he has a little bit better chance of winning the race. The fact of the matter is with this election is that the Republicans came close. And there are several factors that lost them the election. Within those factors, I think you can probably say, one, you have Trump's personality, which a lot of voters like, but that turns off a little bit of independent voters. And I think then you have your two big main factors. One, COVID-19 had such a big impact in many different ways. And for this video, I want to talk about two different levels. What if Trump was more sensible about COVID-19? And what if it didn't happen at all? Because, again, you're going to get two different results there. It was COVID-19, and then the other thing was certainly Black Lives Matter. And I think that BLM probably would have happened regardless. But, again, it's also a presidential year, and political organizations try their best to, go out and, try to influence the election the best that they can. So, taking a look at this map, and let's go on with the first scenario, which is what if Trump was more sensible to COVID? And I really want to mention how we kind of saw this at the end of the campaign when Trump got COVID. And a lot of people have conspiracy theories about that, which I'm not really going to get into. But when Trump got COVID, he kind of realized, well, look, this is something that is a little real and, people should be careful. When he got that sensibility, I think that's what saved the election and got it a lot closer. Trump was certainly popular with his ideas in the industrial Midwest, down south in Florida and Texas, and all these red states that you see on the screen. But I think that one of the things that really helped them to gain those last minute voters was certainly the more sensibility of COVID. If Donald Trump had been more sensible to COVID and just worn a mask from the beginning of the pandemic, even if he personally did not agree with it, just because of his position as a public leader and, as a public relations moves even, he could have gotten more support in this space. With that, I would have said that Arizona probably could have gone to Trump if he was more sensible. I could have seen Georgia going for Trump as well. These are Sunbelt seats with a lot of independent Republicans, more moderate Republicans who, COVID was a big issue for them. And, sensibility goes a long way. And I think that easily he could have probably ended up winning Wisconsin, and probably Pennsylvania. With this current result, we would see a 269 race. If this would have happened, trust me, like, we probably wouldn't have seen the end of day with, with all of this, because, and it was actually a likely scenario. Now looking back, it's crazy to think how likely 269 scenario was in the 2020 election. Thank God it didn't happen, because there would be so many more divisions in our country that we currently have. So I mean, I think that this is a pretty big change. Take a look at it again. 269 to 269 if Trump had been a little bit more sensible about COVID. I mean, and this is not really if you agree with COVID or not, disagree with COVID or not. Do you think you believe some of the theories about what it is and things like that. What the real thing here is, again, and I've said this in a lot of my videos, politics is about perception of reality, not really reality itself. And for Trump, the perception of reality caught up to him. If you had him being a little bit more sensible, you probably wouldn't have that, very, critical media coverage come election time. And I think truly at the end of the day, that's something that really ended up damaging Trump when it came to his chances at re-election. Now I want to go through and talk about what if COVID-19 never happened in its entirety, and America would have been in a normal election where the economy was extremely strong, where we would have seen many jobs created, and America at one of the strongest points that it was in its history. And I think we also have to mention this. Most American voters vote based on the economy. And when it came to this election, there's many voters who voted based on the economy, based on what Trump had done before. But there's also a big chunk of voters who said the economy right now, as it stands, is not in the best shape. So I think that we have to think about that in that way too. That also kind of influenced. If COVID-19 did not happen at all, Donald Trump would have not have to worry about the economy in its entireness. America would be at the highest point, and I think if COVID-19 didn't happen at all, even if things such as Black Lives Matter is still happening, I think that Donald Trump would still be in his highest point during his presidency. He would have probably gained a little bit more of an approval. And what do I think changes with this scenario? Well, I think the states that I mentioned before would probably flip. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, these very tight states that really are just within a couple. And this is what I usually say. Trump lost the election by 200,000 votes. Those are the results. Like, if you add up the results from each of the swing states that could have gotten him the electoral votes to win, it's add up to 200,000 votes. There's people that say, well, he won by 7 million votes. Well, or lost by 7 million votes. That's something different, and based on how elections are run in the U.S., he didn't lose by 7 million votes. He only lost by 200,000, just based on the electoral college system. Now, this is where we would have started. I mean, I think that we could have seen Pennsylvania flipped, but I think we could have seen other states flipped as well. I think that Nevada could have probably flipped, and again, these are not the margins. I'm just using the margins to signify Republican states I think would have gone very nearly. I think we could have seen states like Nevada end up flipping. We probably would have seen states like Minnesota, coming down in that margin, and Michigan could have gotten pretty close. Overall, I think at the end of the day, this is the best Trump could have done during this election, especially with Joe Biden, being the person that he is in a way. That realistically, he is a industrial Midwest native. He's from Pennsylvania. He's gonna have that appeal like many others don't have. Now, I think that one of the things and one of the big market of voters that Joe Biden certainly appealed to during this race was the group of voters that were very worried about COVID. And I remember this during the debates. He would usually say over and over again, oh, you don't have someone sitting at the table next to you. He played that emotional side. And look, it ended up working in his favor. And I think all of this comes to show that Donald Trump was a little bit more careful about how he not only handled COVID in a way, but how he reacted, and he did all these things. I really am convinced that Donald Trump would be reelected as president in 2020. And again, this is not getting to any of the 2020 election, dilemma that a lot of people have, like, oh, the big question about the election that happened after. And we probably would have Never thought about that if Trump had won, of course. But yeah. So this is what my final kind of like COVID scenarios are. The other one was 269, and this one 295, 243 in favor of the Republican Party. I think this is a very interesting video. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, turn on notifications to be up to date with our latest content. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.